She didn't just develop a crush. She started trying to replace me in my own relationship. Hi there, Reddit. My boyfriend, Robin, tutors students at our university. He has quite a few of them, and I've always been perfectly fine with the time he spends on it. He keeps it structured, no more than 1 hour per session and a maximum of 3 students per day. He's serious about balancing his studies, work, and our relationship, and I've never had a problem with that. One student in particular, Lucy, 18F, started hanging around our friend group more often recently. Again, I was okay with it. The more, the merrier, right? At first, Lucy seemed nice enough. Funny, witty, easy to talk to. Nothing about her raised any red flags in the beginning. But after about 2 weeks, both Robin and I started noticing odd things. Whenever we all went out for meals, she always, and I mean always, made sure to sit right next to Robin. She constantly texted him, asking what he was doing and whether he could come over for extra tutoring, despite his very clear rule, 1 hour per student, 3 students per day. No exceptions. Then things started escalating. Robin absolutely loves strawberry ramen. One day, he opened his dorm door and found an entire crate of it sitting outside, sent by her. We're both big fans of Attack on Titan, and we often wear themed shirts or merch. Not long after, Lucy showed up wearing a full Scout Regiment cosplay outfit, one that easily cost hundreds of dollars. She insisted she was a fan, but when I casually asked her about Commander Irwin, she confidently went into a long explanation, except she completely mixed up the facts and ended up describing Pixis instead. For those who know the series, you'll understand how off that is. We're also huge Gravity Falls fans. Robin and I were planning to dress as Dipper and Pacifica for Halloween. Lucy immediately tried to insert herself into that idea, insisting she should be Wendy, the character Dipper had a crush on. Then there was this one moment with our friend group joking about bearded ladies. Someone teased that Robin and I would be perfect since we're both openly bisexual. Robin laughed and said, "I prefer my women like I prefer my men, brunette and clean-shaven," while winking at me. Lucy immediately jumped in and said, "And here I thought you preferred blondes." She was the only one who laughed. I could go on. Honestly, there are more moments like this, but you get the idea. The strange part? According to Robin, she wasn't like this before. In fact, she used to avoid even basic physical proximity with him, like when he reached over to correct her paper. Now, she's acting like this. Both of us are extremely uncomfortable, but we genuinely don't know how to approach it. Talking to her directly feels risky. She tends to make a huge scene over small things. And since I work at the university, we're also trying to avoid any unnecessary drama. We're stuck, and we don't know what the right move is. She didn't just ignore the boundaries. She treated them like a challenge. I stayed nearby, still helping with laundry, but close enough to hear what was going on in case I needed to step in. Everything started off deceptively normal. Lucy placed her books down and tried making small talk with Robin. He's a very polite man, so he responded kindly, keeping things professional and calm. But the moment they both sat down, things shifted. According to Robin, she physically scooted her chair closer to him, so close that their legs were almost touching under the table. That's when he decided to address everything. What happened next still feels unreal. I don't even know how to fully process it, and part of me wishes I had imagined it. But I didn't. Robin calmly told her that he had noticed her behavior for a while now, how she had been inserting herself into both his and my hobbies, and how she had recently started giving him expensive gifts. He mentioned the strawberry ramen crate, and even an Attack on Titan-themed item I didn't know about. He told her that while he appreciated the kindness, it wasn't appropriate, especially between a tutor and a student, and he needed her to stop. Before she could properly respond, he added firmly, "And I'm sorry, but even as a friend, I can't accept gifts that extravagant." For a moment, she went quiet. I had quietly moved closer to the doorway, staying out of sight, but close enough to hear. That's when I started hearing sniffles, then crying. At first, it was soft, almost like she was trying to hold it in. But within seconds, it escalated. She burst into tears, and then came the rambling. At first, it was hard to even follow. Robin later said he couldn't fully understand her either. But eventually, it became clear what she was talking about. She started going on about star signs, destiny, and how it was written in the stars that they were meant to be together. She claimed she had read somewhere that her true love would be her greatest teacher, and that Robin was supposed to be that person. Then it got worse. She said they were destined to fall in love, that their meeting wasn't random, and that they were supposed to have some kind of forbidden romance until he shed the shackles of duty and false love so they could walk among the stars together. By this point, both of us were completely stunned. We respect people's beliefs, but this wasn't just belief anymore. It felt detached from reality. I almost stepped in, but before I could, she shifted again. Now she was talking about me. She said I didn't deserve Robin's love, that I was leading him away from his true path, and that once she lifted the veil from his eyes, they would travel the world together and raise children, specifically 3 beautiful kids with his eyes and her hair. Then she went even further, claiming they would become a king and queen of the world. That's when Robin finally cut her off. He told her, clearly and firmly, that there was no destiny, no veil, and no future where he would leave me. Even if he ever wasn't with me, he said, he had no romantic feelings for her, only professional boundaries as a tutor and maybe friendliness at best. He also repeated that the issue wasn't fate, it was her behavior. He reminded her again that he had already asked her to stop the gifts and stop overstepping boundaries, and that the cosplay situation was meant to be a couple's thing between just us. He tried to be calm, but direct. That's when she snapped back with something that made my blood boil. She said, if she truly loved you, she wouldn't be cheating on you right now. I saw her with 3 different guys on my way here. I stopped cold, because that was an absolute lie, and not even a good one. In that moment, I was done. I grabbed the closest thing in my hands, some of Robin's laundry, and walked straight into the room. The timing was perfect. She had just finished her accusation. I looked right at her and said, dead serious, she's right. Robin, I'm leaving you. I'm in love with your boxers. Robin lost it. He started laughing so hard, he nearly fell out of his chair. But I wasn't finished. I turned to Lucy and told her she was no longer welcome in our friend group. I made it very clear that we were not okay with her behavior, her attempts to interfere in our relationship, or her spreading false accusations about me. She just stood there crying, repeating things about destiny and fate like a broken record. Eventually, Robin got himself together again. He stood up, gathered her things, and calmly told her that he agreed with me. He said he would have eventually forgiven inappropriate behavior, but he could never tolerate someone lying about the person he loves. Then he gestured toward the door. But even then, she wasn't done. She didn't stop at words. She took things to a level none of us were prepared for. She came in wearing what was already her usual revealing style of clothing, but this time something was off. She wasn't wearing a bra, and it honestly looked like she might not have been wearing anything underneath at all. Then she suddenly pulled down her collar. And just like that, she exposed herself. Robin immediately recoiled and turned away. He's not prudish, and he studied anatomy in detail for his classes, but he's also the kind of person who doesn't want to be confronted with something like that in a situation like this. He was clearly uncomfortable, but Lucy didn't care. She started waving her arms, raising her voice, insisting that he look at her, saying that she was the one he truly desired. Not me, because her body was better, and because destiny had chosen them to be together. At that point, I was completely speechless. I genuinely couldn't process what was happening anymore. Luckily, she was being so loud that our resident assistant finally knocked on the door. I snapped back to reality just enough to open it. Lucy didn't even notice the knock. When the RA walked in, she was immediately met with Robin telling Lucy to stop and cover herself, while Lucy kept shouting that one look at her would change everything and make him realize the truth. There was a long, stunned silence. Then the RA took control. She was small in size, but absolutely not someone to be intimidated. Raised by a Marine father, she had that firm, no-nonsense presence that filled the room instantly. She explained she had come because neighbors were complaining about noise, but clearly, this was something else entirely. She sat us all down and asked each of us to explain what was going on. Robin and I both gave our accounts clearly and consistently, explaining Lucy's behavior, the gifts, the boundary issues, and what had just happened that night. Lucy, on the other hand, was still crying, insisting on her destiny story, and suddenly adding new claims, like saying I had scratched her with my nails, which was absurd. My nails were short and blunt, and there were no marks on her at all. She also accused me of stealing Robin and seducing him away from her, along with more delusional statements about fate and love. The RA clearly already knew me, at least by reputation, and she also knew Robin and I were in a relationship. She could see how inconsistent and emotional Lucy's version was, and didn't give it much weight. From there, it became a waiting game. Campus security was called, and things escalated quickly. The situation was described as disturbing the peace and indecent exposure. Security initially considered questioning Robin and me as well, but the RA stepped in and made it clear that Lucy was the only one causing disruption, and that we were, in fact, the ones trying to de-escalate everything. Eventually, they focused only on her. We may still be contacted later for statements or review, and there's a chance of minor administrative follow-ups. But for now, the situation has largely been handled. After everything, Robin and I made a clear decision. We're cutting her off completely. She's blocked on everything, phone, social media, all of it. And if she continues or escalates further, we won't hesitate to pursue a restraining order. I know this sounds unbelievable. Honestly, if I hadn't lived through it myself, I wouldn't believe it either. If someone had told me that a tutoring student would end up screaming about destiny, exposing herself, and declaring a cosmic love story in my boyfriend's dorm room, I would have thought it was a joke. But here we are. That's the story. Comments where OP replied. Someone said the boxers must be heartbroken. Honestly, fair. Another comment suggested Lucy might be dealing with serious mental health issues, possibly even something like schizophrenia, given her age and behavior. And as much as everything that happened was disturbing, that part stuck with me. OOP replied that they'd consider reaching out to the school administration to ensure she gets help, even though it's not really their responsibility. Because at the end of it all, even after everything, it's hard to ignore that she might genuinely need support.